So if you remember part one of the T56 install, I ran into a problem where the transmission was about 3.5 to 4 degrees up, needed to be about 4 degrees down. So there was really only one solution here, and that was to fix the crossmember. So the first thing I did is order this crossmember from American Powertrain. It was absolutely beautiful, very well constructed, powder coated, very nice. But the only issue with it is when I installed it, it was not 4 degrees down. It was about 2.5 up. So it corrected it by about a degree. But I wasn't going to cut this thing up and start over, so it went back. The next one I bought was through Hooker. Now this one from Hooker they said it would not fit a 67, and I didn't dispute that fact, but I ordered it anyway. It's for a 68 to 72, and same thing. I could have cut the ends off on this one and made some new ends for it to fit into the chassis, but again, with a little bit of mock-up, there was no way it was going to be the 4 degrees down I needed, so the only plan here was to hack up the original factory crossmember. So the plan here was to take the factory crossmember and either reconfigure the factory transmission mount or create a new one to lower it down so I could get the 4 degrees that I needed for the down angle on the transmission. Now, if I cut this completely off of here, I can get about 1.5 inches space underneath it if I use this 1/4 inch plate and attach it directly to the bottom. It will give me a readjusted mounting surface for that transmission mount to sit on. So it's a little hard to figure this mathematically and kind of calculate it out, but I think it was going to do the trick, so that's what I did. I jumped in and hacked this factory mount completely off the crossmember. Now, once I did that, it was just a little bit of cleanup. We have to re-weld that new plate on there, so just clean it all up, make sure it was all ready to be welded on there. Now, I think the factory crossmember material is like 3/16. All as I had is 1/4 inch plate laying around, so I used it instead of going out and buying anything else. So no real reason why I used the 1/4 inch. It's just what I had, so it made it easy. So I cleaned it up, cleaned the plate up, got it ready to weld onto the crossmember. Now just a quick couple of tacks on here just to hold that plate on there, and that way I can do a little bit of measuring. But before I jump into that, I want to take a look at one other thing here, and that's energy suspension has 2 different sizes of transmission mount for the Chevelle. So one of them is the standard height, and then they have a shortened one. So the shortened one here will give me a little bit more down angle on the transmission by going from the standard tall one to the shorter one. So you can see the measurement difference here and how much more shorter that the short version is. That's key. If you ever get into a situation where you need to adjust the transmission angle down just a little bit more, keep in mind that energy suspension narrow transmission mount. I think it could help you out quite a bit, and for sure it made a big difference here because where that mount was tacked on, I needed a little bit more distance. So this narrow transmission mount was exactly what I needed. Now with a quick mock-up, it's really, really easy to see that by cutting the factory location of the transmission mount off and welding that plate to the bottom of the crossmember gained me almost the entire measurement that I needed. Now this is with the tall transmission mount in it still, so I can gain a little bit more even with the narrower or the shorter energy suspension transmission mount. So really, really good here. I was kind of hoping that was going to be the case, but the good news is with the mount where it's at, even here, and the plate where it's at welded, spin the yoke, and it doesn't contact the crossmember or the floor brace, so everything's pretty good to go. I still will need to use that narrow mount to drop it down just a little bit more, but for the most part, we're really good to go here. I just threw a couple of more quick welds on this plate, but now the real work needs to start because I need to brace this thing up a little bit. So that's what I did next. I just created some quick little cardboard templates, and I tend to use a very thin material to do these templates because some guys will use a full whatever gauge cardboard box. And they work okay, but the problem is even with a good pair of scissors, it will make the edges a little rougher. Don't quite know how to say that, but if you cut a cardboard box with a pair of scissors, you can see that you don't really get very good, sharp, crisp, clean lines. So that's why I use a really thin poster board type of material to create that. So just mark up a few spots on here, draw out the little gusset that I need to make here for both sides, and that's all we did. So again, it's just easier to work with this type of material. Some guys prefer not to do it. They'll prefer to work with tin or just a really heavy cardboard, whatever makes you comfortable and is easy for you. Do that. Whatever gets the best result for you. For me, I like to use this, and that way I can kind of modify, cut it and modify it where it needs to get the radius that I'm looking for in it. So that's all we do here is just cut some material out, cut a little bit of, make a few cuts in it to fold the cardboard back under and see what kind of radius we need. But it takes a few minutes. I think I probably worked on this for a good probably 10 minutes, 15 at the most. But really, when it's all said and done, you have the correct radius and the right, dimensions on the material that you're going to need. So very, very simple, very, very easy, and matches up perfectly with the Crossmember. Now once I have my template created, all I did is transfer it over to the plate, cut it out, and then now I can start to create the radius I need to fit the curve on the transmission Crossmember. And this isn't complicated, but I don't have a lot of sophisticated tools to do this on. So really just some regular hand tools and you'll be fine. Carbide bit here, a little bit of time. Go slow. That way you don't, take off too much material. You can kind of go, as you need to. Take a little bit off here, a little bit off there, because you're looking for a nice tight fit up against the Crossmember. That way when you weld it on there, you get a nice, good transfer material. You get a nice, good, heat into the materials, and you can adhere them together very easily. So just a little bit of time and patience here is all is needed. Now once you get that piece made, where it needs to be and the right depth on the radius, and it fits all well up against there, you can start to think about tacking all this thing together. You do need to make another side, so for sure, once you get a better rough idea of what this side looks like, the other side's going to be hopefully exactly the same. So in this case, once I confirm that this fits, all the dimensions are right, it sits where it needs to, it's going to brace it up properly, then it's just a matter of transferring it over to a piece of cardboard again, creating a better template, and then that way I'll transfer it over to the 1/4-inch plate and go from there. And then it's just a matter of welding the thing up. Now, the welding side is not that complicated. I use an older Miller-Matic 140. It's on 110. I don't have any 220 in my house, in my garage. So, you don't need to have a big, heavy, sophisticated, gnarly welder to do any of these things. You just need to have a little bit of the right tools to do it. Now, like I mentioned in the tool video, if you've never welded before, don't be afraid of it. Don't think that it's something that you have to send off to somebody, that you've only got a 110 outlet in your garage and you think it's going to need 220. You don't. Get yourself that cheap flux core welder and learn how to do it on your own. Trust me, you're going to be a better car person when you're all said and done, because you can do more things on your own and not have to rely on anybody else to do these things for you. So, a little bit of time on a flux core welder, and learning how to get the right penetration and learn how to set it up a little bit, and then switch over and learn how to weld on a cheaper MIG, and then you can learn how to set up the gas and make sure you get the right amount. And the Millermatic is kind of cheating. It certainly makes me a better welder than I actually am, because it allows me to set the machine up a little easier, and I don't have to worry as much about wire speed and all those other things. I just need to get the my technique down and need to get the right amount of gas going to it, and we're good to go. So anyway, again, once I made both these sides, I just tack it down, and then we'll check it on the car just to make sure that we've got the right dimensions on everything. And once we got everything all in and out a few times and tacked up and everything fit perfectly, transmission is exactly where it needs to be. It's 4 degrees down, perfect. I don't need to do anything else here. It's under its own weight. Everything is perfect. The narrow transmission crossmember, cutting off the factory mounting location on the factory crossmember was exactly what I needed to do. Everything is perfect. Next step on this build will be the next video, which I will do down the road here, where we'll finish the transmission tunnel on the top side, which is where I got stuck the last time, where I figured I needed to do this. So anyway, if you got something out of the video, thought it was cool, please leave me a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. I guess I've done enough of these now with the El Camino and now the Chevelle. I hope I've got a good understanding of it. So if you're doing the same project, leave me a comment if you got a question, and I'll try to help you through it. So anyway, we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks, guys.